You're listening to Heal Through Humor, hosted by yours truly, Talia Bombola. I'm a licensed therapist on a mission to help others learn about themselves and laugh along the way. All right, hello and welcome to another episode of Heal Through Humor. Today we have the date Dr. Christie with us. I'm going to get her joining now live, and let's see. All right, we are good to go. I'm going to invite her in now. Christie. This is always the fun part. Okay. Works. Now we wait. Okay.
Okay, sorry about that. I think it's working now.
There we go.
Okay.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you? Apologies. I always get some glitch when I'm logging in initially.
I know, I noticed that in the beginning. I'd always crop it when we post it on their platforms because I'm like, the first few minutes is not.
Always. Always something.
Yes. I'm really excited for this episode. It's been a long time coming.
Me too. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so excited to chat with you.
You want to introduce yourself and tell everybody about who you are and what you do? You're very well known, but I think it's bearing repeating. So.
Sure, thank you. So my name is Dr. Christie Kedarian. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and psychologist. Got my start working with couples as a marriage and family therapist, and then started working as a matchmaker professionally for eHarmony, and then a Match.com affiliate company. And that's what kind of led me to working specifically with dating and with singles. And I found this intersection between all of my knowledge as a therapist, as well as what I learned about dating apps and modern dating, and wanted to empower people and teach them how to navigate this in a healthy way, as well as a strategic way. So I explain my work as kind of the soul work and the strategy.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of ways to connect and work with us that you can check out on my page and my website, which I'll share later.
Absolutely. And I love the work that you do. I remember coming across your page months ago and I was like, wait, I have to have, I've been wanting to have you on here for such a long time. So we started messaging and I was like, this is perfect. It's perfectly aligned because we
love it.
I have similar background. I'm an MFT as well. And that the lens that we get to view the world through and our clients through when they come into, I'm in my office today, when they come into our office is really. And I think we get to know people in such an intimate, like psychologically close way. We know what their working mind is like. We know what the psychology of people is behind dating apps and different attachment styles and different dating experiences and different phases of life, what you're looking for. So I love that we're going to be able to dive into all of that and more today. This landscape, this new it's not even new that much anymore, though. I feel like modern dating, what study, I think it was Logan posted it, and she was saying now meeting online has transcended meeting in person as the most common way to be. Yep. I think, you had posted similar. So
at the last year. So now the norm, but I think people are still having a hard time wrapping our minds around it because that's not the narrative we've been told, throughout the last
our whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think going to our like I'm close with my family. We've definitely had adjustments over the years, but I'm proud to say now that we're close, we're doing much better, that I would go to them for advice, or you talk to your friends, or your friends are solicited or unsolicited advice. And it was always, well, we met in a malt shop, or they were working on my building. And this is like, okay, now we're all post-COVID, work from home, meeting everything and doing everything online. And then parents are like, good luck.
Yeah.
Like finding somebody, why don't you ask the nice girl out at the grocery store? And it's like, so I'm not going to do that. That's illegal. Thank you.
I'm a stalker or whatever.
Yeah. So what would you say you've noticed with the because you work with coaching clients now more, is that accurate?
Yeah, so primarily we do coaching, and I work one-on-one, but mostly it's through our group program. And what I found is the beauty of group work is just like dating is such an isolating experience because you kind of, especially with the women that we work with in the group program, they are very successful, have great relationships. Everything else in life is going well. And then for some reason, this area, it's hard to like translate it. And it you feel like you're kind of failing or there's something wrong with you. So there's a lot of internalized like fears and pressures. It makes you either go one way or the other. The first way is, oh, I don't need a relationship. Like I'm good.
No, man, I'm fine. I like my life. Yeah.
I'm good without it. Maybe it's not meant for me, this sort of narrative. And then the other way is just feeling like we have to settle our standards or just kind of date anybody. And then we look back, we're like, wait, what was I doing? I never, that's so out of my alignment for me. So we're trying to kind of help people not throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, relationships are really important. And if you have this desire, it's a really amazing desire to pursue in a healthy way. And that's not all of who you are. And building that authenticity and understanding, oh, why did I come up with these beliefs about relationships, etc. And learning about yourself can be really empowering to then attract the right type of person. Because exactly like you said, people are like, oh, why don't you, I tried this app or I met this way. So we're out there trying 5,000 different things and feeling so out of alignment, not grounded at all. I've had clients that were going on, multiple dates a day, literally like business meeting, back to back, same coffee shop. And I'm just like, okay, like we have to really take a step back. So that I think is a really important thing to think about when you're going about this process is, where those beliefs come from and how can I be really clear in who I am and what I'm looking for, and then find someone in that same way. You're not going to find someone doing things out of alignment that's aligned for you.
Yeah, it sounds really similar to the program that I teach. So mine's called Insight Masterclass, and it walks through a lot of personality assessments, a lot of deeper work that I think some people I've had even just as therapy clients have never talked about it with other therapists they've had. Yeah. And to include some parts of that in that masterclass. It's becoming a group program now. That was like its phase 1 beta. It was just the class, and now it's becoming like more interactive. But being able to understand why you are the way you are and why you pick who you pick, that's the foundation. You could have all of the tools in the world. You could have every profile, every app, a matchmaker, this, so that, like the whole team set up, but you at the core are who like needs to be understood and who needs to change oftentimes. But most people don't like that because
it's totally, yeah.
Well, it's not this, or I put that, but this, and I'll like look at their conversations in the apps and I'm like, oh, that was correct. I'm all about clarity, but that was probably coming off a little too intense. And they're like, oh, I should have. I'm like, dial it back just a scotch. Yeah. So it's teaching them who they are and then how to be more of that real self rather than, I think from what you were saying, how society expects us or wants us to be. We're not for everybody. And dating like we're for everybody ends up with a lot of heartbreak typically, or disappointment on the other end.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you work in that way, because I think that's something I noticed a lot in all my years doing matchmaking, and why I, mentioned in some ways is that the people that it was successful for are the people who really had that mindset of, I want to work on myself. I want to I want to attract a healthy person. And then it worked well for them, the process. People it did not work well for are people who are like, here's my laundry list. Like, go create some magic. And oftentimes I would, match them with people that fit that. And then you can't make the relationship work if you're not looking internally at what part I have to play in who I'm attracting and in building a healthy relationship. So that's what I always kind of caution people about the process, is feeling like, oh, there's a quick fix, and there isn't in relationships.
No, and I joke, and my brother hates when I make this joke. And I'm like, you can always find, just settle. And he's like, that's not helpful. And I'm like, okay, but it's a joke, obviously. Like, yeah, you could find anyone. Like, a relationship is very easy to find.
Yeah.
Just find somebody who is very desperate, very clingy, very this, all the terms that nobody likes to talk about, or really overbearing, or really whatever the terms are. And then but most people are like, okay, I don't want that. I'm like, I want any relationship. Like, you want somebody who can complement your life, who doesn't make you feel too engulfed, who doesn't make you feel like you can't depend on them. Like, that secure attachment balance, I think, is super important. And when we're looking for the right partner, it might take some time. Ideally, it's not going to take decades and decades. And if it does, it does, right? If that's how long the work takes, that's how long it takes. Yeah. But it's not a quick fix. There's a balance between it being like overnight, here's 100 matches and one of them is going to be my spouse.
Yeah.
And it's been 5 years and I'm miserable. Well, how are you using the apps? I
Mm-hmm.
log in so often, or I'm on there every single day like it's a full-time job. A lot of these things have this duality that like we got to get more to the middle, that like DBT wise mind
Yeah.
approach, like just take a scoop of rational and a scoop of emotional, and then make sure that you're dating with intention and purpose, and
Yeah.
not your life or you're going to be looking for the same thing.
Yeah, we're so on the same page with exactly that. I tell people all the time, especially if they start kind of getting into that desperate energy or that mindset of like, oh, I'm gonna be alone forever, or I can never find anyone out there, that lack mindset. I'm always like, you could literally go tomorrow and date someone. I'm sure that, anybody,
Or
but
the person, like, yeah, there's human beings all over.
all
Just
over.
have standards and settle, and you'll find someone.
Probably just pull up some X's in your phone and they, yeah,
Yes, FaceTime all of your exes in
yeah.
chronological order. Right.
One of them's on work, but we internally, I always tell them like there's something inside you that's kind of your mind talking, but something at your core is saying, no, like I actually deserve and desire better, and I'm wanting to wait for it, or kind of pursue it in a different way. So you have to listen, you have to tune that part out and listen internally.
Yeah, and there's so much. I'm sure that you see this with your clients too, and I'm eager to hear your perspective. That at certain ages, the societal pressures really came on, because at first it's everybody's getting in a relationship, then everybody's getting engaged, then everybody's getting married, then everybody's having kids. I'm like, first of all, how do you have that many friends if every single person you know is doing all these things? I highly doubt every single person at the exact, but it feels like that. And that's where I think being a therapist then coaches also that role that we kind of fill. We understand how important it is to empathize and validate, but also not enable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
I totally get, and I was like that too, and maybe you were too. I get what that felt like when everybody was hitting all these milestones, and here I was doing career stuff instead, and I felt late to the game, or I felt like, who is going to want to date me if I have all this success? Because here I am reading these articles of like successful women are choosing,
Yeah.
like, and I'm allergic to cats, so this really isn't going to end well for me. Like, what archetype am I going to be?
Not even gonna get the cats.
Those ugly naked cats. Ugh. Like, I'd rather be alone. No thank you. Right? Like, I have to settle today. So I think when we are looking at it from a more therapeutic perspective, it is empathizing and validating. It can feel like everybody's hitting these milestones, but they're not. Or
Mm-hmm.
they are, but you don't know how much inner work that they've been doing, or when they started therapy, or what their standards are.
Mm-hmm.
Most
Totally. Yeah, that's
age, like, you don't know the quality behind closed doors. You just know that it's happening from what.
yeah. And oftentimes I'll have people think about the quality behind doors of relationships that they do know, like, friends or whatever. I'm like, would you want to date? And they're like, no, I don't want to date my friends. And I'm
Like,
okay.
I just title. Like, okay, well, we
Yeah.
have.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think usually what I, try to kind of remind clients is that there's always, and I felt this too, like there's always, and I still feel it. So, you're always going to feel that. But, I know my life, and I'm like, I'm grateful and it's amazing. And there's things that I don't share on social media.
Yeah.
And I try to be authentic. So when you kind of reflect on that yourself, a lot of people probably want something they think you have or that you do have, but they don't necessarily want other things or they didn't want to compromise in other ways. So you have to kind of decide what's best for you in that situation. There's things in my relationship that I often have clients like pretty much all the time when they tell me, oh, okay, I want this, and this, that I was like, oh, well, that wasn't that important to me. So I let that go. But a lot of people will be like, oh, I want a relationship like yours. Well, your standard was different than mine. I was willing to like compromise, or I always say compromise, not settle, because I think relationships take compromise, but you have to decide what's actually important to me, what's actually going to be the ingredients for a healthy relationship, not just what I've been told by other people is important. And that was one of the things, like education. A lot of people, especially culturally, in my culture, when I was getting my doctorate in my like late 20s, a lot of well-meaning extended aunties that were like, are you sure you want to do that single? Like, you're really never going to find anybody, because my culture, it's more like patriarchal and like that's intimidating for a lot of people. And I said, no, like the person that I'm going to be with is going to value that and value what I want to do in the world and with that education. And a lot of people told me when I was dating, were like, oh, well, you need to find then someone who's also an academic or has a doctor or whatever. And I let that go really after dating a few people. I was like, no, I don't care. And my husband, has a college degree and is very successful in his own way as like a business owner, entrepreneur, but not in like field. And so a lot of people that I know, also really successful, educated women, are like, okay, I need them to be this PhD or whatever. I'm like, do you really? Or is that something you're just being fed? So we really have to make that distinguish that, so you can actually be, you're not guarding yourself from your own happiness because, oh, they don't check this box.
Yeah. When I worked, we did get a question that we'll go into in a little bit, but when I was working, and I was in the dating scene for a long time before I got out.
Thank
us up. Thank you.
Yeah.
But I realize, and I work on this with a lot of my clients, that who they're looking for is sometimes, especially in certain cultures, the template that would be most accepted by the family, and they're operating on those sub or unconscious beliefs or the associative learning when they're growing up. Like, women in our family do this, men in our family, like there's a lot of traditions that get passed down that we don't often question because we don't out group socially. It's painful, it's uncomfortable. We don't want to feel ostracized from our family of origin. That seek out or laud these qualities, and we're like, is it actually really important though? Like, maybe I would be fine. I would date my partner or still be with him and spend the rest of my life with him if he had a doctorate, but he doesn't, and I don't care. Like, and I learned very quickly when I was on apps years ago, searching and modifying in this, and I put it to my exact preference. I'm like, here's my dating pool. There was 2 people. Like, oh no. Like, what am I willing to compromise on? What is truly important that I don't want to be without? Mm-hmm. And what am I okay? I would be fine without it. Yeah. Sure, it's a want, not a need. And that's something I talk about a lot, is differentiating those 2 things. So it's not a need, and most things that we are categorizing as a want sometimes is like a need in sheep's clothing, but we're not assertive enough to actually push our foot down on the gas pedal to get it. Yeah. And when we are searching for a partner, the most important things, I think, are aligned core values, morals. Do they want to have a family or not? At what time do they want to do some of these large milestone events? Because you could pick a great partner, but your timelines are 2 decades off, and that's a lot of strain and constraint on the relationship that's going to make it sometimes unenjoyable. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter that they have a sense of humor. For me, For others, they're like, I could take it or leave it. Do politics matter? For some couples, yes. For others, no. One of the best books I read was Why Him by Lori Gottlieb.
Oh yeah, I
love that book. In the beginning, she talks about the husband store, and you're going through this, and it's like, and floor 7 is this, and they're like, it doesn't exist. Like, how much? Please have standards. Please have standards. But to the question of compromise versus settling, I look at it, settling is like, well, I don't think I'll get anything better, so this will do. It's kind of like, I'll just make it work. Compromise, as long as you're not compromising yourself, compromise a necessary requirement. It's a negotiation ongoing back and forth between, I'm an independent self, you're an independent self. How can we be us? Mm-hmm. Well, I want to go to Thai food tonight and you want Italian. How about we do mine tonight and yours tomorrow? Like, that's the compromise I think you and I on a surface are talking about, and deep down it's like, well, I really wanted to live here, but your school's here. Let's do, like, it can be for big life events too. And the got have the compromise bagels. What am I unwilling to budge on, that inner circle that I'm really tough on? And what am I okay with flexing on? Kids not wear makeup before 14, but they can if they're in the house, right? Mm-hmm. I want to have this many kids. Ideally, we can't really control that, but no more, like, you can use those different techniques and tools as long as you're not compromising who you are as an individual, authentic self. Compromise relationally is required.
Yeah, exactly. And I often think, to the question of settling too, I often think of it as like, most people think of it as I'm settling on like, checkbox types of, but really, if you look at it, it's more about like how you're being treated in the relationship. And I think a lot of people settle for treatment that's not healthy or not how you want to feel loved and cared for in a relationship, but they're not compromising.
But I'm not alone.
Yeah. not say, well, they checked these boxes, so I'm willing to put up with this. When really, I think settling is not valuing yourself enough to be like, you know what, I don't care if they have a doctorate or they, do this, that, but they treat me really well. We're able to have that healthy ability to compromise in our relationship and really in the middle and be a team. That's like invaluable, but nobody asks for that. Everyone, and usually I'll say, like, if people bring a laundry list to me, I off the bat, I'm like, okay, I know that there's part of them that really wants a relationship, but part of them that this is their guard, this is their shield, this is their protection. They don't want to be hurt, they don't want to be rejected. They think they can, protect themselves from any risk in the relationship if, okay, the person comes from a great family and they don't do this and this and this and this, and then we've completely, you might find someone that fits all those things, but you don't know what the future is going to hold. You don't know, what life is going to bring. And what's more important is, who is this person now and how can I work with them to create the life and relationship that I desire? Like I always say, the number one quality I tell people to look for is like agreeable flexibility. Like I can work with you, and someone who's not so rigid, because again, even if you agree on every single thing and you're completely aligned, 5 years from now, you might not be. And then how are you going to work on that? How are you going to work through that?
My number one trait that I preach on all the time for people to look for in another is willingness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I've given this speech so many times at weddings. The person you're standing in front of saying I do to today, if you're doing it right, is not the person that you're going to be standing in front of in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. You want to grow.
Mm-hmm.
You stay the exact, ideally, you don't want to stay the exact same as you are, especially if you get married young, because you're just going to stay in your perpetual 20-year-old self.
Right. Like, yeah. Not going to be good for anyone.
Yeah. No, not healthy. And you want to grow. So you want to have the willingness to be like, "Ooh, wasn't expecting that change. However, okay, sitting with it. I think here's how I can help. Here's what I'm still not willing to budge on." And not every time will a compromise be solved in one conversation. So when you're compromising, thinking of it as an ongoing negotiation, that you're both bringing terms and conditions, litigation, if you will, until you arrive at, okay, here's the best deal for now, and let's leave it open for renegotiation. Our compromise could work until we have kids, and then once we have kids, we got to redo it because now we have a third or a fourth, depending if you have, a single child, triplets, twins, etc., or you have multiple in your family system. The resources are going to be different. Time, energy, and effort specifically are going to be a more scarce resource. How are we going to navigate this when it's just the two of us anymore? Yeah. Which starts with maybe asking them, do you ever want it to be more than just us?
Yeah.
I never want children. And women typically, from evolutionary psychology, because we're feelings based, think, well, you'll just say that until you feel differently. Yeah. Feel that way about me, then we'll have kids and we'll live back near my in-laws in my home city. And they're like, I'm never living out of New York. I'm never going to have kids. And we're like, challenge accepted.
Exactly. Yeah.
Love me. And then you're going to change your mind. No.
Yeah. And then I'll be in
developed. That is who they are. They're not going to change.
Yeah. And then that feeling like, oh, I can be enough for them to change is a historical thing from your parents. So I think that it's really good to look at that and how you're compromising your values and which ones you are compromising. And I think it's always like what you were saying, it's always in a relationship, a negotiation of needs. There's going to be your need trumps your partner. They're going to be different. But because yours is, most part, we're going to shift that. We're going to create a compromise, or vice versa. So there's going to be those times. And I think sometimes people create the lists or think about dating as like, how can I maintain everything possible in my life and who I am, change it all, and find someone that just, especially if you're getting married later in life, find someone that completely fits. And the hard part of that is that that's not relationships at all. We're often going to have to shift our needs and desires in order to connect with the other person. And I was telling a client this morning that, any healthy relationship has that balance, right? Connection, autonomy. And it seemed like they're completely separate, but they have to coexist, because if you're too connected, it leads to that codependence. You're not your own person. It just anxious attachment all over the place. If you're too autonomous, it's like, okay, well, connected at all, but it's hard. That's a very messy, very messy intersection, but it has to be there, and at times you're going to have to give up your autonomy for that connection, and the opposite too. So we have to go into relationships thinking like that too. When you're dating, you have to think about that too, not just like, okay, I'm 100% autonomous individual, no one can come change me, no connection, I'm not going to compromise for any type of connection that is ultimately going to keep us unhappy, disconnected. Yeah.
I'm going to leave it. I'm just going to
Yeah.
keep it where it was, because that sounds like a lot. And there, again, is the willingness trait that I look at. It's willingness and unwillingness.
Mm-hmm.
There are things that I am unwilling to do, because no matter who I am with, no matter who I'm around, that is core to who I am.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Specific to the relationship, I'm trying to think of a trait off the top of my head, but like, I don't know, sense of humor for some. Like, I know I can read a room of when to make somebody laugh versus not, but that's something I'm going to compromise. So I would never have picked a partner who didn't appreciate my humor, or who tried to mute that, or who didn't laugh at it, right? Because it's a core part of who I am. And in every other area of my life, I'm loved for it, or liked for it, or known for it. So
Yeah.
traits and values that you have no matter who you're around, those are absolutely the ones I would recommend really taking a deep, hard look at if you're ever wanting to compromise them, in service of what.
Mm-hmm.
And every individual might change those, right? They might, and that's their we're not living their relationships, that's their own choice. You don't hire us and then we get to live with you and your partner. That would be a whole other kind of therapy or dating coaching, where we're like,
that service. Yeah.
like, oh, don't mind me.
Yeah.
Them, right? So when we're balancing that connection and that individuation, when our attachment styles are activated, when our parents are in our ear telling us who they want, when age is knocking on our door, if we want to have kids especially, sometimes it's the internal biological clock and sometimes it's the external pressure of the biological clock. There's so much going on, and men have that too. I think I know for a fact scientifically, men have a longer view of parenting.
Yeah.
So their timing of when they want to initiate a family has to be sustainable, not only in that innate choice or that instant choice, it's long term. So their timeline of, okay, if in 5 years this and that, and then career and this and that, and that's, I'm eager to hear your perspective on this. That timeline for men and women doesn't usually match up in the early 20s or even mid to late 30s now, because timelines are being pushed. Where I want to get married and have kids and I've set up my life, you may have to date somebody older who is a decade or 5 to 10, they have a leg up on the other people in your age range, where your success, your compatibility, et cetera, are more likely to align because you're at a similar place in your life. You might age, but you might be at a similar place. And if you don't want to do that, understand who you're partnering with. You might have to be an ally while they grow and become more successful. And not everyone wants to sit and watch the man build the kingdom, which is totally fine. And that is a personal choice. But there's a pro to it, because you show loyalty, you show respect, you are by their side, they're growing. You having not to worry about the relationship helps you grow in your career. There's more of a benefit if you think of it like, okay, I'll be there alongside you, rather than somebody's like, welcome to my kingdom, would you like in? That's a benefit too, because you don't have to do as much work, but you don't know who trained them, and you don't know if they're going to be willing to budge on the training they've received by previous partners or by life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a point that people don't think about often. And what I always tell clients do is that, like, let's say, having a family is a core value of yours. You really want to think about, and you're kind of nervous, or I mean, people, whatever. When people would ask about investing with me or investing in some sort of like egg freezing, whatever. Obviously, it's a personal choice, but I would always be like, do that first, because you don't want desperation to be your driving energy, because you want to get X result. Like, you never want to think like, yeah. So I always say, like, okay, if you're feeling that pressure out of something that's not really core to the relationship, it's just like, okay, I just need to get married so I can have a family. That isn't really going to lead you to that fulfillment and happiness long term, because you're going to be with your kid probably 18, forever, but you're going to be with your partner hopefully forever. So I think always trying to figure out what's in my power to control. Like, you can't necessarily control the timing of someone coming into your life, but there are other resources you can make available to you in that process. So So I always say, like, okay, the things that are in your control, your action, your initiative, putting yourself into that line of meeting the right person, any type of other like action related, freezing it, whatever, if you're family, that's in your control. In your control, doing the work on yourself. So you're going to attract a healthy partner. So, working with a therapist, coach, whatever, that's in your power. Obviously, there's always going to be blind sides, but bringing that to your awareness is in your power.
Yes.
It's not in your control. Timing, you have no control over timing, literally zero. So you have to surrender that and say, I'm going to work on my side of the street while these other things are at play, and trust the process.
Yeah.
Another thing in your control is your criteria, like what you're looking
Yeah.
for, how you can shift that depending on what's important to you. So and availability, emotional availability of the person, you're trying to make it work but it's not, like, that's also not in your control, the work they do on themselves. So you really have to release that and focus on what you can control and work that, and that is a lot quicker to that solution or the result that you want, than trying to worry about the timing and rush things and force things.
Yeah, it's not gonna, it'll happen if you force it, but most of the time when things are forced, it just exists. It's not what you're truly called to do, meant for, etc. And the person that you pick to spend the rest of your life with has such a crucial role in who you are, who you become, who you don't become, the parent you are, the kind of employee, boss. It expands over all areas of your life. Really push for people to be patient and wait and make it a good one. All these people who got married at 19, 20, cool. If they stayed together, good for them. I hope it's healthy. Most of the time, from what I've seen, at least, especially living in Orange County, you get divorced early.
Yeah.
You get divorced before 30, and hopefully, and luckily for some of the people that I've seen, they don't have kids, so it makes it less complicated for them to try and restart. But they're coming at it now with, oh, now I know who I am. Now I can pick a partner who can fit better. So honestly, there's a lot of benefit to getting married later in life, because the quality of the relationship hopefully will be increased, because you know yourself more the day that you're saying I do, or whatever commitment you're choosing to make. If it's not marriage, committing, knowing more of yourself.
And research really supports that. So every year older that you get married, your likelihood divorce percentage goes down every single year. So if you feel like I'm too old, you might actually be in a great place to have a successful relationship that happily ever after.
Yeah, and knowing those traits to look for are going to, especially if we dated for a long time in our young 20s and stayed in one or two relationships, like mostly monogamous. Like, we were monogamous, but it was mostly just like one or two relationships. Dating, the same tactics don't apply now. And the same type of person you're not going to be interested in. I don't want somebody who wants to text me at 2 a.m. and ask you up. I don't want somebody who's not emotionally available. I don't want somebody who's too intimidated by me. Like, there were so many other parameters I was looking for that I'm like, I think I have to change my type. Go for the emotionally unavailable D-bag anymore. I think I have to go for somebody who younger me would have been like, ew, they're so boring. Their family's intact. They're communicative. They're nice to you. Disgusting. Cancel them. Go for the guy who treats you like shit. But then knowing that that's not going to be long lasting or be comfortable, you have to then pick the partner who is best for current you and future you. And if you're not ready to make that compromise, sacrifice, whatever you want to call it, that relationship won't feel like it's aligning at the time. If you're looking at it and going, oh, I have to do a lot of inner work to understand why I am attracted to and attractive to emotionally unavailable partners. Some part of me doesn't want to be fully opened up to or be open. And I don't want to be with somebody who might be healthy or secure because they're too vanilla, because text me back, you're consistent, you ask me on dates. When's the other shoe going to drop? A lot of suspicion, and there's also a lot of, well, this isn't treating me as poorly as I'm used to, so I'm going to self-sabotage and go pick somebody who does, but then I'm still going to want the person who treats me nicely.
Or on the surface. And I, like, sometimes one example I thought of is a very common one, like, oh, he's not that so-and-so ex was blowing up my phone all day, texting me, and I'm like, you really want that? Like, you want that guy
gives you space to be your autonomous,
Yeah.
independent self. I kind of like that codependency.
Yeah, I'm like, that guy didn't really have a job, right? In your 20 or whatever. So
They were unemployed, correct? Well, yeah, they had a lot of time to.
yeah, all day, yeah.
Yeah,
So it's kind of like you have to readjust, but because your idea of relationships and when someone's interested in you or just admires you in that way is so formed and shaped by some of those like earlier relationships, you have to kind of adjust and be like, wait, I'm like a full adult. They're a full adult. This is how we should be okay with some of that gap. And personally, my number one rule is like, do not text like in between, so
yeah,
you went on a first date. Next morning, they're texting you like their
yeah.
breakfast, and oh, I went on this hike with my cousin. I'm like, who cares? Like, we literally just met. Like, we want to set up dates, no like texting.
Yes.
Like wasting time and that intrusion into your autonomy in your life before we're in a relationship.
Yeah.
I really stand by that, but I think like we have to think about communication in our dating lives and how it's evolved probably from when you were first in your first love
Yep.
relationships, what you actually need it to be now, and not start like kind of creating meanings about like yourself or who they are, their interests without that direct kind of
But it's
communication.
so fun to live in the my fantasy. And then I get those clients who are like that. And they're like, but, and I'm like, if you're going to tell me that you like the version of them that you built in your head more than the person in front of you, we're going to have a problem. Or you're going to have a problem in the dating relationship, which is good news because problems can be solved. Like, we can work through this. But is the less I know about you, the more space I get to create who you are. And that's also why that emotional unavailability can be sexy or attractive, because it lets me live in a delusion is not real. Well, they could be this and they could be that. And women are far more feelings based than men are typically. And we are far more affected by the written word than men are. So spending too much time texting before a date is a big red flag, and it's going to lead you to feel attached way quickly than you otherwise would if you left it at a nice follow-up is fine, right? A thanks for last night, can't wait to see you, when would you like to meet again? Oh, Thursday sounds great, okay, see you then. Maybe a text day of or night before to confirm. That's fine, you can do those kinds of communications in between. But spilling out your entire life story before you've ever gone on a first date, pictures of any kind, clothed, unclothed, especially the unclothed ones, you show up on the date, and what if you don't like that person or they catfished you? Now you're sitting there feeling violated, often by your own doing, by being too much too soon. And then, of course, either they leave or you don't want to stay, so you self-abandon. Then you blame the system or the cycle of, well, nobody's ever there for me, I'm too much, I'm too needy. No, you just bared your soul way too soon, expecting the other person to stay as an abandonment prevention technique, or you can't go without that that individuation. You don't like your life that you've built on a day-to-day enough to want to stay in it and then add someone in. You can't desperation, to your point, like a job interview. I've given this example before. If you're interviewing for a job or somebody's interviewing for the company, they're like, this has to work, you don't apply nowhere else, like you have to hire me. I'd be like, no. Same thing dating. You can sense when you're sitting across from somebody and they're like, you are my only person, I must be with you. Yeah, then I'm going to go do this with my friends and this on the weekend and this, I'd love to see you next week when I'm back. If you're anxious, it can be hard to stomach, but eventually that is what's healthier. You don't want to be someone's all-encompassing everything. That's delusional.
Yeah, and that's what I always say, like knowing your, like back to what we were saying about like knowing yourself is so important. Like in my program, we learn about like your dating blueprint, which is basically based on attachment theory and like your Enneagram.
I do that too. Oh my gosh, yeah.
I love that. So what we do in that is really notice, okay, if you are an anxious, and this is what I tell all my anxious attachers in the dating process, like, I'm sorry, dating is not built for you. Unfortunately, they didn't have you in mind when they created this process. I think there was I don't know if you posted it or not. I was like,
yep.
I'm too toxic for the talking stage. Like, I was dying at that. But basically, of us that are anxiously attached, you have to really think about, okay, I cannot put all my eggs in one basket, because if I do that and I'm only dating one person, I'm already committed. I'm picking out our baby names.
Yeah.
Date, and then the come down from that is so devastating that then it makes you want to be like, okay, I'm done, delete the dating apps, whatever. So I always encourage, and my clients are always fighting me on this. I'm like, we're still swiping, like date 6, 7, until we're in a relationship.
Yeah.
You don't want to message anybody. We're opening the app. We're just like, there
Yeah.
are people out there. I'm not in a relationship yet. Like, we're telling ourselves that because
To
you
be in
can,
reality.
yeah. And then that one situation that, just kind of doesn't work out because it doesn't work out, all of a sudden derailed all of your time and what you're putting into the process instead of saying, oh, this is just part of the process. There's somebody else out there and I'm going to keep looking. So
Yeah.
we really have to pay attention to what's taking us out of the game. And so we're not letting these experiences just steamroll us and then we're giving up on what we really desire.
Yeah. The avoidance, I've noticed it's more like a laissez-faire, like they want but they don't. Obviously ambivalence is part of that, that when they find someone they like, it's the, I hate to use this word because I think there might be a more clinical phrase, but nitpicking, I think, is something we can all relate to as a term or kind of have an association with it, that it's like, well, they're this and that. I'm like, do you understand that this is a mechanism and a vehicle in which you're trying to avoid the true connection by
Right.
picking out things that may not actually be bothersome? You're just
Mm-hmm.
making it bothersome because you don't want to really be intimate and close.
Exactly. Yeah. I always say it like with my avoidant attachers, if we're on like date 5 and all of a sudden you're like, I don't really like their teeth. I'm like, you didn't say you
Nope.
didn't on day 1.
Yeah. Nope.
Been
This
on
is
5 days.
attachment technique. Don't try.
Yeah. Did their teeth dramatically change or are we now in that let me find a way out so I don't have to connect because we're
Yeah.
at that of, oh, I'm gonna have to be real and honest and authentic. And that's something I tell everybody too. Like, you want to show up fully authentic as yourself from date 1. None of this like, oh, I don't want to kind of please that, or I always use this joke because I would do this a lot. I was done a lot of work on myself, but I'm definitely more prone to anxious attachment. And if they were like, oh yeah, like, have you heard of this band? I'm like, oh yeah, totally. Never heard of them. Like, pretend I liked whatever they like so
I'll
that,
be whoever you want to be.
yeah, exactly. So then I'd like Google it or whatever because I just wanted that connection.
Yep.
So join so deeply, but it's like, no, like if you don't want to go to that restaurant, don't go to say, hey, I don't eat seafood or
Yeah.
whatever, trying to accommodate. And then all of a sudden later on, we start asserting ourselves and saying, oh, this is who I am. And they're like, wait, what? And we've created this whole illusion of like, oh, no wonder they loved us because we were just exactly what they wanted.
Give what they wanted. Yeah. And,
Person,
yeah.
just could kind of check off, I'm anxious and a type 3, but check off that approval. Oh, okay, like they think I'm like worthy or I now have the approval, so now I feel more comfortable. But we have to shift that, be like, I don't care if I have the approval or not, this is who I am. I'd rather figure that out earlier than waste my time in a relationship that I have to be someone I'm not or make myself small so that someone likes me or anything like that. So I'm always encouraging those of the types that are like that to be like, okay, how can I go on the date thinking, do I like them, not like, okay, how are they gonna like me or not?
Well, yeah. And
Yeah.
that's a good point that you bring up with the beginning being authentic. I've worked with, and I'm on the big 5 personality traits, which is part of the program too. I'm very agreeable. Like I'm like 30%. Like I don't care if people don't like me. It doesn't
Love.
mean I'm kind. It doesn't mean I like seek out to be aggressive, but I'm also an Enneagram 8. So
Nice.
it's like all of these things come in as a confluence where I'm very comfortable with who I am. And I've worked very hard on it. I'm all right, more than all right in many cases. If somebody is like, that's not for me,
Mm-hmm.
okay. I don't internalize that anymore like I did when I was much, much younger, my teen years of, well, that means I'm wrong and bad and I need to change to fit in. It's like, okay. And it's sometimes if I have a sense that there's a disconnect, and I work with my clients on this too, most of it is projection from the other person. They don't want to face the inner parts that they would have to if they were around somebody so authentic. So that's why things don't come to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
And on the first date, if you lead with authenticity, still nice and agreeable, open to compromise. Hey, thanks so much for the offer. That restaurant sounds so great. I actually don't like seafood or I'm allergic to, and don't fake an allergy, please.
Yeah.
Just be honest. I don't prefer this, right? A boundary and a preference are 2 different things, or an allergy and a preference.
Mm-hmm.
I don't prefer that. I was thinking we could have this style, leave it open, put the ball back in their court, and then see what they come up with. So it's not just like, no, I don't like that. No, I don't like that. Nobody wants to go on a date with somebody who's a stick in the mud. Okay. Like the balance of here are my boundaries and preferences, and I'm still open. Here's where no, and here's all the places I'm a yes. Let's focus on that strength
Yeah.
space. It's agreeable in terms of once I've set my boundary and standard, we're fair game when it comes to being agreeable, but don't be so overly people pleasing and a chameleon
Mhm.
of, well, I'll just be anything you want me to be. And I don't care if it only lasts 4 or 5 dates, because then I can avoid being alone for 4 or 5 dates. Not the healthiest standpoint to take when it comes to dating. We want to really take a look at how can you sit and tolerate that the person might not like you for you on the first date, and can you let that be okay?
Yeah. And are we both willing and able to tolerate differences in our relationship?
Yeah.
Because that's going to happen all the time too.
Yeah. Yeah, whether you like it or not, you will be different from your partner. I always make the joke,
Yeah.
and I'm like, ideally, you will marry somebody who's separate from you, who wasn't raised the way that you were raised or didn't grow up in your household, because you don't want to marry your sibling.
Exactly.
Point. I'm like, I don't want to marry somebody who was raised the way that you were, because that's incest and that's
Yeah.
gross. You don't want that. You want,
Even, yeah.
yeah, who feels comfortable, right? They should feel just enough like home, but just enough like an adventure all at once. So you have a nice blend of, here is safe and secure at a home base, but here's all the places that we can go and explore together if we're a good fit, both metaphorically and literally.
Yeah, I love that, home and an adventure. And
Yeah.
I think that, like, even, I mean, I've studied sibling order a lot,
Oh,
but even if you think that being raised in the same family, you're not raised in the
no,
same.
you have starkly different experiences.
Yeah.
The who you are you the brother, are you the sister, was it a blended family, was it adopted?
Yeah.
There's so much nuance to it, and I have that with, I don't know how many siblings you have. I have a brother. I have that with my brother. He's like, he'll look, I'm like reporting a story, and he's like,
Yeah.
who were you raised by? That wasn't the household I grew up in. Like, I know.
Yeah.
And your feelings and your inner child. If I have to hear about your inner child one more time, I'm gonna snap. And I was like, sounds like your inner child's angry. And he was like, are you kidding me? And just stormed off.
That's hilarious. Yeah, it's so, but it is really true. And I like to, like, share this statistic with people. In Dr. Neil Clark Warren, the founder of Your Harmonies, where he found that actually the more ways that people are similar to each other in important ways, the more compatible they are. And a lot of people have that idea of, like, opposites attract. And I think opposites attract, but do they necessarily stay together?
No.
In a relationship? Not really sure, because I think if you are, like you mentioned before, those shared values and kind of like how you see the world, even with so many similarities, you're still going to be so different.
Yeah.
So if you are able to kind of be on the same page about a lot of things, then it's going to make that adventure together a lot more fun than feeling like we're not even in the same book, let alone on the same page. It's going to be a lot harder to navigate kind of where you want to go, on your journey basically together.
Yeah, I think opposites attract when it comes to chemistry, because it's that newness, that excitement. And I think it was a while ago that I made a reel. It's like when you try something on at the store versus when you take it home from the store. In the dressing room, it's super cute, but then you take it home and you're like, this doesn't go with anything.
Yeah. What was that
Why
thing?
would you buy that? Like, what is going on with you? But where opposites attract, because it's more lustful and exciting, and biologically that primal urge to mate, that's where it's this big chemistry, where it's like, ooh, they're dark and mysterious. And there's been so many studies about how women in their young 20s are far more attracted to men who have the dark triad personality traits. So there's all of that as well. It's the similarities are what make it last. That's where compatibility comes in. Do I just want the spark, or do I want this flame to keep me warm for the rest of my union with this person?
Yeah.
I'm more traditional. That's where I was at. That's what I was seeking out. It doesn't mean in my younger years I was not in a different place where I could have been like, oh, I'll just, yeah, hook up here or this or that. You have to go through some of this. Bridesmaids, she falls off. She's like, I broke a lot of shit on the way down that cruise ship. And I got in the bottom of the ocean and I looked at this dolphin and it stared at me in my soul. Like, you're going to have those moments before you meet that coach or that therapist who's that dolphin, so to speak. That's like, is this what you really want? And it is a growing process to figure out what you want. And to your point, growing up in the same household, having wildly different experiences, that transcends even the heteronormative view of relationships, because you could be in a same-sex relationship and you're still two independent selves. It doesn't matter the body you're housed in. You are your own authentic self dating another separate other. And that's a lot of the psychoanalytic work I do, is how do you tolerate and understand that you are somebody else's objective they're not your subjective object. You can't possess them and make them who you
Yeah.
need to be. As much as you might like, it's not sustainable.
Yeah. Are you object relations trained?
Yeah, part
Oh,
of my I've been in analytic training for like 4 years. I don't know, it's a long time. I'm never going to get out of
yeah.
school. As one of my coaches said, I have the most self-certainty as a student. So
Yeah.
out if I'm ever not. But we study a lot about object relations and a lot about internalized objects, self objects, transitional objects. Very big into object relations.
I have to nerd out about this later for those who don't know. It's a
Yes.
therapy terms, but yeah, I think what you said is really important as far as kind of like understanding how we need to grow individually, because I think a lot of times when we're looking for that opposite, it's because we find that lack in ourselves. We're like, oh, okay, cool, if I'm with the partner by osmosis or whatever, they can just kind of pick up this area and I don't have to do that work myself to be a complete person or whatever. And then so, it's great to have that complementary relationship, but
Yeah.
you have to, and I say this a lot, especially more stereotypically with women that are looking for a man that's like financially stable or financially literate, whatever. It's because women feel very insecure in this area of financial literacy, or just feel, and that's societally. I can talk about this for a whole nother
So
podcast, but I think like if you start doing that work and feel more empowered yourself, you're not going to feel like, oh, I need someone to be. I mean, it's good to find that match, and
sure, yeah.
but you're not going to feel like, oh, I have none of this and I need someone to have this. It becomes more of like that want and not that like need, because, oh, I feel like I got, like,
I support myself.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think that's a nice place to be open to be provided for, but not entirely reliant on being provided for. And I advocate, and I teach a lot of varying ages, but typically about like just graduated high school in some of the classes, all the way to like returning students who are doing like second career later in life. And the methodology is never give up your financial independence. Like and I try not to use absolutes like never and always, but this is one of the rare exceptions. Always be able, as much as you can, even if it's towards an effort, be able to provide for yourself and care for yourself. You could retire from it. You could down the lever. It doesn't mean that you have to always do it, but don't give entirely up the ability to do so, or never learn how to. Because what happens if everything works out well, you fall madly in love and they are the provider of all things. What happens when they die? Don't have those skills, right? Even if we're not talking about all the attachment, all the other stuff of modern dating, life transitions happen. What happens if they become ill? What happens if they lose their voice? Like they become deaf, they become like they lose other organs that don't function properly. You want to be able to support yourself in those ways, even if you don't have to rely on it. The ability to be able to do so is something that speaks directly to what we were talking about for a lot of the episode, that autonomy.
Yeah.
Independent self, and then learn how to be able to depend on others, but not become dependent upon others entirely.
Yeah. And feeling that self-sufficiency and confidence is going to help your relationship, not hurt it at all.
So
it's not going
to pressure off the partner to be like, how many times when you were working with couples, I see it all the time, and I have to provide, there's so much mental load that men carry that women have no clue about, because we're more vocal with our mental load. I could talk to you for hours.
Oh yeah.
We have so many episodes that I'm like, ping.
I love that. That's so true with the mental.
So much that we don't know that goes on behind the scenes, because they don't want to stress us out. They don't want to burden us. And they think of things longer term, bigger picture. Whereas for us, from what I've seen, our mental load is remarkably more day to day. And I got to do the towels and the this and the that and then the laundry. It's like day to day, week to week. And we relate to time differently than men do because of but men think of things longer term, and I'm stressed at work and this and that, and they shove it down often because emotions aren't encouraged to be expressed. And we assume everything's fine, so we dump on them, and this litany of problems happens when it comes to that. Being able to provide for oneself and not have the financial strain be 100% on one partner or the other. Even if you're not going out and making the money, can you learn to manage it? Can you help in some way to create some sort of duality and balance?
Yeah. We need like 5 podcast episodes.
Well, good news is you're invited back on for the rest of the time, because we have many topics to dive into again.
Oh, I love that. Someone asked how not to sabotage a healthy bond with ambivalence. Yeah, I think that kind of comes from that feeling like you have to protect yourself, and being open. Like one of my favorite quotes is, to love at all is to be vulnerable, like that vulnerability piece and opening yourself. Like when you say I do, there's a risk. There's always risk involved. And I think that ambivalence piece is your protective mechanism to try to kind of put one foot in, one foot out, but then you're not going to get the full joy of being in a connected, beautiful relationship either. But so I think it's like you can't get the risk, you can't get the reward without the risk piece. And working on tolerating that with a therapist, or a coach or someone that can help you kind of balance that. Okay, I want to be fully authentic, present, connected, and that opens me up to risk and and potential hurt. And holding those two things is, part of the human experience, but I think really valuable to your dating journey so that you're attracting the right people and you're able to be fully present to create that healthy relationship.
Yeah, and it sounds like either of our programs would be a good
Yes,
fit.
feel free.
That reach out to us. Do we take one-on-one clients, group clients? Just let us know how we can help. And thank you so much for your time today, Christy. I would love to have you on again. You and I can message about that because you are a wealth, and I love talking to you so much.
Thank you. Me too. This was so much fun. And yeah, feel free to connect with me on Instagram or my website. It's therapyfordating.com. So you can reach out to our team and we'd love to help support you if any of this resonated. I know there were a lot of like questions and comments, but I wasn't following them. So feel free to reach out.
Them in there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, good. I knew you were doing that. So.
Yes, thank you very much. And I will send you a DM and we can book for another time.
Yeah, this is so fun. Thanks, Talia. Thanks, everyone, for joining.
Thank you, everyone. Talk to you soon.